What's up, guys? Fan 101 here, and here I am, and finally, I'm reviewing a WCPW show. I feel a little bit happy. Now, here's the thing. Until Slammiversary comes up tonight, and I won't be able to watch it tonight because I usually can't find a stream of it. Although I will try. So until Slammiversary comes up tonight, I have to catch up on Ring of Honor, New Japan, and WCPW shows. I thankfully do not have to review any Lucha Underground pay-per-views because Lucha Underground doesn't do pay-per-views. The only show I'm probably going to majorly watch for Lucha Underground is Ultima Lucha, which won't happen for another couple of months at the least. Probably another couple of months, maybe another few months. And so what I'm doing here, because with WWE, NXT, and TNA, I reviewed all the shows that from beginning to end in which they happened, because the main roster pay-per-views are very linear. NXT takeovers very linear, and TNA very linear. Those pay-per-views usually do not cross over with each other. The only one that did was TakeOver San Antonio, and Seth Rollins invaded for that little segment. But that was about it. Now, with Ring of Honor, New Japan, and WCPW, it's going to be a little different. Instead of doing it by company from beginning to end, I'm going to do the shows in the order that they happened. Probably asking yourself, why? Well, the reason why is because because the shows tend to cross over with each other, specifically Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor crosses over often with New Japan, as we've seen, and we've seen some Ring of Honor guys sometimes compete in WCPW. For example, recently, when Christopher Daniels was Ring of Honor champion, he would go into WCPW a few times and defend the Ring of Honor championship. So, and it wouldn't make sense for me to, say, review all the Ring of Honor shows up until to when Cody Rhodes beat Christopher Daniels for the title, and then all of a sudden review WCPW and then go over more Christopher Daniels matches. I want to do it in the order in which they happen, so that way there's no confusion. Now, of course, if you decide to listen through only like company by company, that's your prerogative. But I'm warning you right now with this review. With that said, this is a show that I did like. It wasn't perfect. There was a little bit of flaw, but it was a good show. It was called Delete WCPW. And this was back in 2016. I'm going back to, if I recall correctly, this is my last show that I have to review from 2016. I think there were other WCPW shows that I missed, but honestly, either I reviewed them and somehow they got deleted, or I just forgot to review them. I'm not even going to bother going back to that. I'm going to this one because this show was a little bit of a marquee event. Because some shit actually did happen here. So let's just start off. Well, I will say, watching this show again, I forgot how insufferable the commentary could be. Not Dave Bradshaw. Dave Bradshaw was actually pretty good. Dave Bradshaw, he's actually a decent announcer, tries to make sense of all the things. No, it's his fucking partner. God, I'm forgetting his name. Hang on. Alex Shane. That's who it was. Alex Shane. Who is just insufferable. Absolutely insufferable. Alex Shane pisses my shit off. He's as bad as JBL. Yes, I'm comparing him to JBL. Not a good thing. So let's just get this over with. So there was a dark match which eventually was released later to YouTube. It was Pete Dunne and Travis Banks, which the tag team was called the Strong Style Collective, against Prospect, Alex Gracie and Lucas Archer. The match itself was actually a solid match. I'm not going to include it on the show because in the review mainly, because it was basically a pre-show match. It was a dark match, actually, that somehow got released to YouTube. Hang on a second. One of my cats is trying to get in. I have to let the bastard in. He's kind of a dick sometimes. What, cat? Go! I'm doing a review! Seriously, that cat... Kind of a bastard. I'm kidding, I love that cat. Anyway, that's basically how we got it. So, yeah, this is what Pete Dunne was doing just before. And it was a nice match, but Pete Dunne does not need to be in a tag team. He's a singles guy. And if there was anybody WCW could have done a hell of a lot more with the time that they had, it was Pete Dunne. Considering how awesome he's been in WWE so far and in progress. The actual show opened up with a championship for championship match. Cody Rhodes, at this time, was still the Global Force Wrestling Next Gen champion. Whether he still is the champion, I don't know. Let me look it up real quick. I have a freaking computer right here. Yeah, Cody Rhodes is still the Next Gen GFW champion. Hasn't defended the title since March. So, what the hell is happening there? But Cody Rhodes is the Next Gen champion, and he was going up against El Ligero, who is the WCPW Internet champion. And basically, it was a title for title match. Opening match, I gotta say, these guys had a pretty good match. El Ligero, he's a pretty good worker. Cody Rhodes is a pretty good worker. There was a point, Cody Rhodes tried to go for a disaster kick. He missed. Ligero, he at several points went for the C4L, which is basically a springboard tornado DDT, which is actually kind of cool, I gotta say. There was a point here where Cody Rhodes got whipped into the turnbuckle, Bret Hart style. Nobody could do that as good as Bret Hart did, but if you do that period and you do it right, which Cody did, I applaud you. Cody Rhodes, he had a stalling, he basically, a delayed superplex from the top rope to El Ligero. Remember, El Ligero is a small guy. Cody Rhodes, he's a decent size, but Ligero is smaller. At the very least, he weighs less, so it was easier for him to do. Went for another crossroads soon after that, missed. I think the finish happened where so what happened was Ligero went for a wheelbarrow roll-up. It didn't work. Rhodes caught him trying to go for the wheelbarrow and reversed it into the crossroads to take the win. This was actually a pretty good match. Both of them are good workers. This match went about 12 minutes, and this was a good, nice opening match. Next was the Swords of Essex. Swords of Essex. Scott Wainwright and Paul Robinson. And B. Priestley, who basically is a member of the Swords of Essex. I keep saying Essex. Try saying that 3 times fast. Versus Moustache Mountain, which was Trent Seven and Tyler Bate, and Nixon Newell. God, things changed when a few months passed by. Both Trent Seven and Tyler Bate are in WWE, and hell, Tyler Bate was the first ever UK champion. And he was actually, and even though they've mentioned the name Moustache Mountain in WWE, they've never mentioned the fact that Trent Seven and Tyler Bate were a tag team. Not just in WCPW. They were also a tag team, I believe, if I recall correctly, they were also a tag team in Progress. I could be wrong on that one, but I know they were a tag team outside of WCPW. So I'm surprised they didn't mention that part. And, and they also, and Paul Robinson, who to me looks like a poor man's Martin Kirby. I think he got hurt, and instead of Scott Wainwright has been teaming with Will Ospreay. Honestly, that's much better. Paul Robinson is I'm not going to say Paul Robinson's bad. I'm pretty sure that Paul Robinson's at least a decent wrestler, but he's portrayed in WCPW as a guy who is so small that he barely does any real damage unless he cheats. That's basically his gimmick. And I don't like that. Look at Rey Mysterio. He doesn't need to cheat in order to win. Of course, he's friggin' Rey Mysterio, but, point remains. Just because you're small doesn't mean you can't do damage. That was basically the gimmick with Paul Robinson. And you could say that may have hurt this match, because this match was not that good. I mean, it was a solid match. It was like an okay match. But it could have been much better considering the talent involved. Although, I will say they got only like 9 minutes, so maybe they could have done more with a couple more minutes. But, yeah, but basically, I don't like... There are certain comedy bits I do like. Paul Robinson here was not one of them. And, of course, the feud B. Priestley and Nixon Newell, who was the WCPW Women's Champion. Priestley wanting badly to be the champion. At one point later on, actually stole the belt. The winner of the match was actually the Swords of Essex. I think they just formed at this time. This was back in November. Well, it aired in November, but November 30th. But all links were open December 2nd. So I don't know what happened there. At least as far as what I got. So, yeah, basically what happened is, Scott Wainwright, broke up a pin, I believe with a Shining Wizard, double-teamed, the guys double-teamed Nixon Newell with a double stomp, a double stomp assisted, Death Valley Driver, I think, what it was. It was a freaky looking finishing move. And basically they threw B. Priestley on top of her so that way she could get the pin on Nixon Newell. So basically they took Moustache Mountain out of the equation. All the guys teamed up on the woman. Other than Lucha Underground, this is the one show where we get man-on-woman violence. Okay. Then, and I'm ignoring all the backstage segments. I'm just getting right to the matches. So what happened is, Johnny Mundo was supposed to have a match, with Alberto El Patron, who could not make it to this show. So instead, the replacement ended up being, Gabriel Kidd. And I believe this was a match. Basically, this was the start of the Prince Amin face turn. Because if you remember, Prince Amin was a heel. He beat Gabriel Kidd to basically be his servant, and then later on was recently started calling Gabriel Kidd his protege, and kept on cheering on Kidd during their matches, and at times would even interfere on Kidd's behalf when, the heels are trying to do some dastardly things. Or he would be attacked by the heels. This was the first instance, because right here, he was still playing a sort of a pseudo-heel role, but he called Gabriel Kidd the protege, not a servant. So, that was, that was the nice subtle change in storyline there. Johnny Mundo versus Gabriel Kidd, this match didn't go that long. This match only went 9 minutes, I think. Maybe it was I don't know what it was. So, like, I read some reports that went like 12 minutes. Bullshit. It did not go that long. Either that or it did, and it just felt like it was short. I don't know. But basically, Gabriel Kidd, who's really good, and he's like my age. He's like 19 to 20 years old. And, you know, he wrestled Johnny Mundo. They had a solid little match. But I think it could have been better, considering the talent involved. I think what it was, you know what it was? I think what it was is that they had to scramble because Patron was not there, and they had to get a replacement out there, and they tried their best with what they had. They probably didn't have any time to talk about, you know, how to work their match because, you know, I guess this Patron not being there snuck up on them in the last minute. So, with what they had going for it and what transpired before, I thought it was a decent match. Mundo won. He should not have lost to Gabriel Kidd anyway. I think this was his first match in WCPW. He had the Starship Pain. He had a disaster kick. Kidd did grab the leg for a Starship Pain, so that way he wouldn't hit it. But then later, Kidd got a little bit of offense, but then Mundo hit a superplex. And then after the superplex, hit Starship Pain for the win. It did start slow, but once the match was building up, it was actually pretty good. I just think it's kind of like what happened at SummerSlam 2000 when Kurt Angle got hurt and Triple H and Rock had to work a match alone. And it could have been much better if Kurt Angle was there, because they had a plan, but it didn't work because Angle got hurt. Similar thing here. Patron was not there. So, but at least we still got a decent match out of it. Let's see here. Lumberjack match between Primate and Rampage. This was the best of 7 series that was going on with Primate and Rampage, with every match being a gimmick. This match, I thought it was a solid match. It was a nice little fun brawl. Although I think it was short. Maybe it wasn't. Oh, no. I remember. Even shorter than the next match afterwards. This match was the shortest match on the show. This match went like maybe 7 minutes. It was short. At least it was short, so we wouldn't get any bullshit for too long. And it was a lumberjack match. Lumberjacks were Pete Dunne, Doug Williams, Drake, Alex Gracie, Lucas Archer, and Travis Banks. So, and with Rampage being the heel, Rampage being the face, and Primate being the heel, of course they would lean towards Primate trying to get the win. Especially with Drake, Gracie, and Archer out there, who were in league at the time with Primate, loosely connected to James R. Kennedy. But the match, of course, started off a lot similar to Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Well, maybe it didn't start off, but they eventually battled into the crowd. So Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins from SummerSlam 2014. Nice tip of the hat there. Primate did hit some pretty good-looking German suplexes, which almost immediately made me think of Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle. Especially Kurt Angle, being that I think he was actually on one of the later WCPW shows. He was on an earlier one with Cody Rhodes, and then later with Patron. I'll get to that when I review it. Primate, he tried doing his best. I think, if I recall correctly, basically what happened is, Prospect interfered, Lucas Archer and Alex Gracie interfered, Rampage disposed of them quite quickly, but Primate got a rear naked chokehold on Rampage, and Rampage had to submit. So it was a solid match, but what could have made it better was the constant interferences. What could have made it better? What could have made it better was having no constant interference, because there was interference in this match considering who were the Lumberjacks. So there is that. There was a pile driver in this match, and there was a time in WCPW when the pile driver was, quote, banned in storyline, of course. But there was I think that was Primate actually hit the pile driver, not Rampage. Rampage did use, because I think Rampage is like a face, so he didn't. I think he only used that pile driver against like Big Damo, in an eventual rematch. He when Rampage was face and Damo was heel. Then out came Bully Ray. He cut a promo, called Adam Pacitti a little bitch, because by this point Pacitti was a heel. Threatened to beat his ass. Wanted to just have a nice, good old no disqualification match with Matt Hardy, who was playing the Broken Matt character on this show. So, you know, there were chants of TLC when he brought up the wrestling past of Matt Hardy and Bully Ray, being that they were part of Team 3D and the Hardy Boys with that great the great tag team feud between them, the Dudleys, Hardys, Edge and Christian. So this match, and it's sad for me to say, because I got my paper right here. It's sad for me to say, this was actually the worst match on the show. Partially because it only went like 7.5 minutes, and part of it because, you know, it wasn't like boring. I will give it that. It was not boring, but the thing is, maybe it's just the chemistry, or maybe it's because of the interference from Adam Pacitti, which led to the finish. I think that's when it really went downhill. Before that, it was not great, but it was at least fun. And then Pacitti came in. You know, there was tables. You know, tables. Oh my! Of course, there would be tables. Look who's in the match. There was Adam Pacitti came in, low blowed Matt Hardy, and then I believe Bully Ray. He also got a low blow and won with a roll up. Yeah, he won with a roll up. So they basically teased weapons, and they didn't really do it. Or if they did, you know, I barely remember it. There was a couple steel chairs. This match sucked. This match was balls, partially because of the finish, but because it was basically like a New Jack style match. And when you have a New Jack style match, that's not a good thing. The crowd was at least into it, considering who was in there, but Pacitti going in there, I think at one point Bully Ray, you know, I think he got like a Pacitti Club shirt, because Adam Pacitti was doing this Pacitti Club thing for a while, and, you know, that was a heel saber for all of maybe a couple months. So there was that. We went from the worst match of the night to one of the better matches, thank Lord. It was the WCPW Tag Team Championship Finals with Johnny Moss and Liam Slater against the Coffey brothers, which was Joe Coffey and Mark Coffey. Joe Coffey's really good. Mark Coffey, maybe not as good, but still pretty good. Johnny Moss and Liam Slater, I think, are a great tag team. A great, big, strong man style. He's not, like, tall, but he's big. Johnny Moss is jacked. And Liam Slater's like the smaller guy who can maneuver around like a cruiserweight. So, they make a good tag team. This match was really, really good. You know, Moss may be in his mid-30s or something like that, but don't discredit the guy because of how he looks. This guy can move. And this guy's also a powerhouse. So, this guy, he knows how to wrestle, and he can kick your ass. I heard a car alarm down the street. You know, and how do I know? Well, here's the thing. Joe Coffey's a big guy. You know, he's a big boy. He's not like the Mac big. Or he's not like Matanza. Or Brian Cage. Johnny Moss, while smaller, is similar to Brian Cage. He gave Joe an over the head belly to belly suplex. And then, I mean, you don't give guys that side belly to belly suplexes unless you're Kurt Angle. I mean, I know a lot of people can get a lot of people belly to belly suplexes, but this guy did it almost effortlessly. Johnny Moss is a scary dude. Do not come across this guy in the alleyway, or else you will die. You know, several times Joe Coffey went for the Black Coffee lariat, which is basically a discus clothesline, I believe. And You know, Mark was there. Mark, while maybe probably the least talented, was still pretty good. This was still a really good match. You know, miscommunication. Mark knocked Joe off the apron at one point. Joe caught Slater with a giant swing and a Boston Crab. Probably not as good as Chris Jericho, though, I gotta say. Moss did break it up, but then he took a double suplex from both Coffeys. So, yeah. 2 Coffeys better than 1 Moss, I guess. I don't see Moss suplexing both of them like the Big Show did to several people over his career. So what happened was, here the finish was, Slater, you know, he missed a black Coffey from Joe Coffey, and tagged in Moss. Moss hit a fisherman brainbuster. This sounds horrible. And then Slater tagged in, went for a swan dive headbutt, and basically the swan dive headbutt, I think what happens is he stands on Johnny Moss, and then basically does and then he just does a flying headbutt from on top of Johnny Moss on Mark Coffey, and hit and got the win. This was a really good match, which honestly I thought should have gone longer. Despite the fact they went a decent amount of time, they could have gone a couple more minutes and got more fast-paced action. So that was cool. Next we had the best match of the night: Will Ospreay and Martin Kirby in a 2 out of 3 falls match. And for those of you who do keep up with WCPW, or at least look at the results, these 2 guys have a history. It was Martin Kirby was on a losing streak, and then his first match that he won was a great match with Will Ospreay. Then Will Ospreay came back. Well, he got pinned again by Kirby in a 5-way match, in a 3-way match actually. Oh, maybe it was a 5-way. I don't know. Pretty sure it was a 5-way match. Or maybe he beat Pete Dunne. I don't know. Anyways, Will Ospreay came back for a second match. He lost. Well, actually, no. He came back for a second match. He turned heel and then joined the Swords of Essex. Scott Wainwright, Paul Robinson, and his real-life girlfriend, Bea Priestley, and they formed the Swords of Essex together. This was the third match, the rubber match, because Will Ospreay won a match thanks to the heel turn. Martin Kirby won the first match. And this was the rubber match. So what happened is, well, first of all, this match was really great. This was the only 4-star match of the night, but it was great. I had a lot of fun with it. Even went back and rewatched it a couple of times. Kirby, he came out like a house of fire. Crowd loved him. He threw Will Ospreay outside. He, freaking threw this guy over the barricade onto the floor, which looked like awesome, but had to suck for Will Ospreay's back, I guess. He was beating on Ospreay outside, but then he got into the ring. He got Ospreay into the ring. He went in, but then Will, he got a roll-up, and he put his legs on the rope and got the first fall. So only a few minutes in, and he got a fall. So you're probably thinking, his match is only going to last 10 minutes. Well, actually, the second fall, the work to the second fall was probably the longest stretch. That went about 10 more minutes. We had Ospreay taking control. He basically was working heel. He didn't do that many flip dives, which is good considering the fact that he's a heel. And, people usually love flip dives and everything. But first what he did, though, he went out to the ring, he talked shit to the crowd, and then Martin Kirby hit the weirdest looking tope that I've probably ever seen. Even weirder than some of the ones that Sasha Banks does. he had like a sideways looking tope. It looked weird, but it was still cool. It came right the hell out of nowhere. So there was that. You know, there was Martin Kirby hits this move. He calls it the dickhead plex, which is basically a hanging suplex that ends with a poke to the eye. Before and then afterward, he did a handspring off the ropes and drop kicked Ospreay, I think. But the dickhead plex, WWE could never get away with that. At least they would never allow anybody to get away with it. At one point, Kirby went for the Zoidberg elbow, which up until WrestleMania season, when I stopped watching, or when I couldn't watch anymore, Kirby has never hit the Zoidberg elbow. He did not hit it here. Ospreay quickly set to that. He went for a dive outside, and then realized, wait a minute, I'm a heel. I'm not going to do it. And then he basically said, screw you to the crowd. You know, which got him heat. You know, he got a cloverleaf on him, which, honestly, I don't know how many times he does that cloverleaf. I don't usually see him do cloverleafs. Kirby got to the ropes. Sling Blade took Ospreay, but it didn't keep him out for long. He rolled out. Went for I think another dive. Ospreay got a kick right to the head, and I believe this was the part. Oh no, wait. What happened was, here's what happened. So this is the second fall. What happened was he missed a move from the top rope. It didn't work. Then he, I think he, Martin Kirby went for a sable bomb. Ospreay kicked him hit a knee to his face. Then I believe Ospreay went for a sable bomb a few minutes later, and then Martin Kirby rolled him up. He countered out of the sable bomb, his own move. And yes, he does call it a sable bomb. Not a power bomb, a sable bomb. Like from Sable, you know, Brock Lesnar's wife. Okay. Okay. It does make you laugh every time you think of that. So yeah, Ospreay, what happened was Kirby was trying to hit the sable bomb. But then, but as soon as Ospreay got out of it, he got rolled up. And now it became 1-1. Then there was a rest period. Ospreay wasted no time, had a Yakuza kick in the corner, threw Kirby out, wanted to win by count out, didn't work. Crowd kept on chanting 10 over and over again, which makes it hard for us to care. At first I liked it when it was only Ty Dillinger, but now that they're doing 10, or they were doing 10 for every single match, you know, it started to get really old. Not like the yes chant. That was good, and that makes sense. No, they use the 10 chant for every single count out fall or count out tease or whatever. Kirby got in the ring. I think Will Ospreay got he tried like running at him. Kirby like talked to the hand and then hit an enziguri on him. But then I think things were really good when Will Ospreay went for the Oz Cutter. He hit it. Kirby kicked out. I could be going back and forth, but who gives a shit? Kirby kicked out, which the commentary on set said that anybody that Ospreay hit with the Oz Cutter in WCPW or in many other places usually don't kick out of. So this was a close near fall. And then at one point, Will Ospreay's at the top rope in the corner. Kirby went up, hit a top rope Hurricane Rana. And keep in mind, both of them were not on the middle rope. They were on the top rope. So if you remember Austin Aries and Jeff Hardy from Bound for Glory 2012 in the main event, it was the same move with both of them on the top rope. You don't see that often. Usually you see it from the middle rope. But he had a top rope Hurricane Rana, went for the pin, Ospreay kicked out. Went for a Famouser, Ospreay kicked out at 2. So with all this here, what happened was Ospreay. I think after Ospreay hit the Oz Cutter, I may have been after the top rope Hurricane Rana or the top rope Frankenstein or whatever. He got his Swords of Essex flag because he does have that. Choked out Martin Kirby. And then went for the Rainmaker, because keep in mind, he's part of the Chaos stable, supposedly, in New Japan. I think he still is, I don't know. He went for the Rainmaker. Kirby countered it with a pop-up Sable Bomb. Got a near fall. Went for a Zoidberg elbow. Ospreay grabbed the baton, which apparently he had with him the whole time. He threw the referee aside. Or no, he shoved. He hid behind the referee, then threw him aside. Hit Ospreay with a Zoidberg, not a Zoidberg elbow, with the baton, and then went for got a near fall, and then quickly went for another Oz Cutter and got the win. So a lot of hijinks in terms of good hijinks, I should say, at the end of the match. This should have been the main event. I understand why it wasn't, but looking back, it really should have been the main event. It was the hottest match. It was the best match. It featured. And the only difference was that this one, it did no titles on the line, and it was not a gimmick. Well, actually it was, but the next match was more of a gimmick. Great match, I gotta say. Go check it out. Next was the main event. Joseph Connors defending, this is before he went to WWE. Joseph Connors defending the WCPW title against Joe Hendry and Drew Galloway in a steel cage match. I gotta say, this match was a little bit underwhelming. Honestly, it should have been just a regular three-way match. I will say though, the steel cage they used, they didn't use the normal steel cage like that you usually see. They used the classic blue bar steel cage. I believe here was a black bar though, or maybe it was still blue. But yeah, they used the blue bar steel cage that you saw in the matches in the 80s and at times in the 90s. You know, the ones that really hurt. So, I will say, you gotta give WCPW props for that. They brought back a classic steel cage look. So, Galloway's and Connors started fighting outside. Hendry, who at the time was still a face, he came out, and he's like, dude, bring him in the ring so we can start the freaking match. He went to Galloway and said this. And they all climbed in the cage, and, you know, it was a decent match, and it was a nice little match. But I think it could have been much better. It really could have been much better. I mean, it was cool to see the blue bar cage again, but I think there was just too much. There was just not too much. There was not enough. There was a little bit too much stalling, too much trying to get out of the cage, which I get you're trying to build to that part. But, it just didn't work here for whatever reason. It wasn't a bad match. It was a nice little solid match. But it could have been a hell of a lot better if not for the steel cage stipulation. They could have done a lot more stuff. Like, say, if there was a no DQ match. They could have done a lot more with that. They didn't. So, basically, okay, so here's the finish. The finish, this is what happened. The finish was, and I have to admit though, the finish was actually pretty nice. So if you recall, Drew Galloway accidentally hurt his neck when Joseph Connors hit a botched Righteous Kill DDT on him. And that's why he couldn't compete at Bound for Glory last year. And that's why he was on the shelf for a couple months. So he came back, or he was on the shelf for a little while. He came back. He wants the championship. Hendry, of course, wants it because, you know, Connors, his friend, turned heel on him and beat his ass. And what happened was Joe Hendry was on his way out of the cage. He was already on the outside of the cage. Joseph Connors had Drew Galloway in the righteous kill spot, and he threatened to break Galloway's neck again. So Hendry, being the babyface that he is, and kind of a stupid one, but it's understandable, he cared about Drew Galloway. He rushed as fast as he could back in the ring, but then Drew Galloway countered it and hit the Future Shock DDT. And as soon as he saw that Galloway was countering into his finisher, Hendry tried so hard to get back out of the cage and onto the floor so he could win the championship. Galloway, however, he hit the Future Shock DDT and pinned Joseph Connors before Hendry's feet could hit the floor. That finish, I will say, was actually pretty good. The match, you know, was to good. The finish, though, actually made it a little bit of a better match, I gotta say. It told a good story. So, I will say, though, the crowd didn't seem to be into it. But then again, several WCPW crowds are not always the greatest. So, overall, I thought it was a good show. Not a great show. There were certainly much better WCPW shows, and certainly much better shows that year. But this was a pretty good show. Had a good opener. Had a couple of good matches. Only had one shitty match. So, with that said, I'll see you next time, guys. The ratings will be down on the inbox below. Until next time, guys, peace. I will see you with my New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom 11. Yes, I am finally reviewing Wrestle Kingdom. So, until next time, guys, later.